Fantabulous.
Inspired, reinvigorated,
Excited.
confidence built, pumped, energized,
Exhilarating.
deadly as.
Shake the room, scale it up. We've been hustling till all hours. Fuel the fire, burning high. Making seven figures with my girls. Around the world, we know just how you feel. Know you will keep it real. So let's conspire to join. Hand in hand with my sisters we learn. Let's conspire to grow. With determination we thrive. Step into your future and thrive. Connect together, join, lift one another. Show up and step into your future and thrive. Connect together, grow, lift one another. Show up and step into your future and thrive. Whoa, 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 whoa. Step into your future and thrive. Step into your future and thrive. Connect together, join, lift one another. Learn, show up and step into your future and thrive. Connect together, grow, lift one another. Learn, show up and step into your future and thrive.
Now, the person you have all been waiting for. It's a pleasure to introduce you to Leigh Woodgate, the only woman ever to win the Great Mountain Race at Mansfield. Leigh's story is one of determination when an accident changed the course of her life forever. In the second last jump, her horse stumbled and fell. The rest of the field was unable to avoid her body on the track. The resultant injuries were almost fatal. Hardly a bone in Leigh's body was left unbroken. She lay in a coma for 17 days, then in hospital for 6 months. The whole time she believed passionately that she could ride again. She had to learn how to eat, to talk, and to walk again. Step by step, she strengthened her body. She overcame numerous hurdles, always with a positive view. Now, 15 years after her accident, she finally received clearance from her doctors to ride again. Today, she rides professionally a couple of mornings a week for trainer Eric Musgrove. Please welcome Leigh to speak.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. That was wonderful. That makes me feel really good. I'm going to give you a short presentation on Grub Woodgate's legacy. This is how my dad reacted to the accident and how I used it to drive me forward and to be positive and not get negative. I could not afford to get negative because if I had have got negative, it would have dragged me down into a place that I would never want to go. So this is called Grub Woodgate's legacy. Some people believe in fate, that everything is preordained. So whatever you do is basically out of your control. But I reject that because of my strong belief in the power of will. I believe that even with the odds stacked against you, you cannot get on top of circumstance. Why do I believe that? Why am I like I am? Did I create entirely my own view of life? How much was I influenced by others? I do know that I come from a line of determined women. Take Granny, who was Queenie May Valentine, had driven her menfolk to build up the family property. No one argued with Granny Woodgate. And likewise, no one argued with my mother, Valerie, who as Mrs. Woodgate, the school teacher, had terrified several generations of the district's children and their parents. But my dad, John Woodgate, usually known as Grub, was undoubtedly the most powerful influence of my life. Dad had sparkling blue eyes and the most beautiful smile. In some ways, his treatment of me was harsh and almost cruel if I showed any weakness. But from him, I was schooled to survive whatever life might throw at me. I think Dad lived out some of his life ambitions through me, to be an exceptional rider, a leader of the racetracks, a dream of magnificent animals and fame. When I was born, my tough little mother cried because I wasn't a boy. I didn't have balls and life had delivered up the wrong package. I was a fair-haired, slimly built girl in a man's world. So instead of playing with dolls, I spent most of my time on a pony, quickly moving on to more spirited animals that would have been a handful, even for the most experienced riders. With Rob Woodgate and his mate Buff Rogers, I went into Brumby country, camping and working stock with them around the wild mountains above the Snowy River. I was treated kindly but brusquely. Quietly, I was a little mate beside them, absorbing the tales of Brumby running and big races in the city, while always at night the wondrous glory of the everlasting stars. Dad started training me for serious competition, and I was fortunate that I never experienced fear on the big mounts. If I fell, I simply jumped back on and headed for the next challenge. The big challenge was the Mountain Cattleman's Cup, first for a place and then for a win. With Grub's determination and mine fused against the odds, which were soon up against me, a slip of a female daring the macho men on their own rough ground. At El Dorado, my horse came down, but I got back on and won the race. The men gave me no quarter in the rough of the races or push through rough river crossings, but I did not expect it. I competed as their equal with no holds barred. It seemed for a number of years I rode a crest in life. Hard riding, working with racehorses, track work in Australia and New Zealand. I was succeeding in a man's world. Despite my handicap as a female, I was succeeding as well as any son could have done. But then, that fateful turning point while leading the field in the steeplechase, the bone-crunching fall when I fell off and the rest of the horses in the race galloped over me. With multiple injuries, they expected me to die. I could not move or breathe or speak. Rob Woodgate's anguish was complete. My broken body and his broken dreams. I think my father hated me then. He turned away from me in despair. His rejection was harsh. Who wanted to race, he said. You did. So you deal with it. You get over it. Later he said to me, you were my favourite until the accident. Now you're the biggest disappointment of my life. In a man's world, there is no wasted sentimentality, only reality, life and death, animals injured and shot, devastation by drought, floods and fire, mates killed in accidents, and life goes on. That's my legacy. We survive. I thank the memory of my father, Rob Woodgate, for treating me as a man in a hard world. I know that because of him, I now have the will to survive anything that life can throw at me. I would like to think that in some place, somewhere, somehow, he sees me for what I now am, a strong, determined person in my own right. I believe Grub is now proud of me and I have the feeling that he is always with me, strangely closer than he was, even in our closest moments in life. I don't believe in fate. Life is more complex than that. Somehow, I think life is a mix of choice, chance, and circumstance. But to me, choice has the most potential power. I'm grateful for the influence of my strong ancestors, my grandmother Queenie and my mother Val, but most especially, I'm grateful for my father, Rob Woodgate. I have a powerful inheritance and experience of survival In this, there is no place for self-pity or false sentimentality, only the will to live and to overcome circumstance. This I would like to share with other people who may have had gentler lives, to be able to take courage if a life storm suddenly engulfs them. My dad saying those words to me, I didn't get bitter. I couldn't afford to get bitter because life's too short. We're only here for a certain amount of time, and we've got to make the most of each day. And we've got to learn, as Lisa said, we've got to learn from our mistakes and draw the good. Any experience that we have, we've got to draw the good out of it, and we've got to not let the bad drag us down. So that's been a pivotal lesson in my life. And Dad saying that to me, I could not afford to get bitter or hurt. I just had to keep moving on. It's the 7 steps to overcoming anything. And I shall give you the 7 steps. 1, belief and acceptance. 2, determination. 3, passion. 4, grind and hard work. 5, strategies and goals. 6, drive and single-mindedness. 7, place no boundaries on what you can achieve. On the 1st of July, 1994, I was riding the steeplechase for the trainer Eric Musgrove at Hamilton in Western Victoria. I remember the day very well. The truck was heavy. The horse's name was Wintercold. He was carrying top weight of 71 kilos. We were leading the race, and for a jockey, that means the prospect of a good payday, but it can also mean danger, especially in the jumps. The horse started to tire. We dropped back to second, and after the second last fence, he knuckled and I was pile-driven into the turf. I fell off, and virtually every other horse in the field trampled me. My body was shattered. Both lungs were punctured. My brain started to bleed, and I lay in a coma for 17 days. I had nothing to work with. Darkness pressed down upon me, and I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was suffocating. But eventually my will kicked in. And this is the big question. Where does your will come from? And it comes from every cell of being, every remembering cell, every ounce of you. Wired up to machines and unable to move, people doubted my ability to survive. Those same people would make me doubt my own thoughts and drive. So I slowly learned to take a breath and start my recovery. The one person never to doubt me was my mum, who was instrumental to my recovery and the mainstay to my efforts to regain my independence. I'd gone from a fully functioning human being to a damaged baby, relearning every step a small child must take. How could these things be so hard? I'd done them all before without effort. Now every small thing was like a mountain to be climbed. I was told by people who didn't want to see me fail not to even try it. Because I'd always been successful, nobody thought that I could handle not succeeding. As far as they were concerned, I'd be a non-functioning person for the rest of my life. And I can tell you right now, I was never going to let that happen. I always thought I'm going to be the very best I can be. How lucky was I to have at least part of my brain function and to be able to think and plan each and every step back to my life, the one that I wanted and aspired to. You can see challenges as the negative, something that holds you back, or you can see them as opportunities to go forward. Not many people have the opportunity to have everything taken from them. It's a chance to prove you can come back from anything. As I learned to accept what had happened, so I learned to deal with the injuries I sustained, the disabilities that were pressed upon me, and the challenges I'm still working with. To myself, I will always be a work in progress. I keep reminding myself, don't turn bitter. Riding half a ton of horse for a living is one of the most riskiest vocational choices you can make. Every jockey falls. It's just a matter of when. Damien Oliver broke his back. Michelle Payne ruptured her spleen. So many of my friends, Danny, Lonnie, Mick, Robert, Peter, Philip, all their careers ended by life-threatening falls, and one committed suicide afterwards. Too many young jockeys haven't even survived their apprenticeships. Me, I'm still learning to be nice and to control my temper. Anger and bitterness can eat you up. So that's my first step, belief in myself, acceptance of how life is and the challenges that lay ahead. Then my second step is determination. Now it was down to my stubborn pig-headedness and single-minded determination to find the right people and succession of therapies that would help me achieve my goal of independence. Deep down in the core of my being, I knew I was going to have to give my second chance at life everything I had. Improving everything about my broken self was where I was headed. I needed to be mentally strong. For 4 years, I was locked into a health system, predestined to place boundaries on someone with my extensive range of injuries. Apparently, I was destined to live in a wheelchair in a halfway house. Hardly the independent living to which I aspired. My family was extremely tough on me. Look at you, Leigh. You can't even speak properly, they'd say. So I'd stay up till 2 a.m, practicing my speech out loud into a tape recorder and then replaying it. I wanted to make Dad proud. When he was dying, he said, "Leigh, you learned how to speak too bloody well." And that made me feel like I'd achieved my first goal. I found that when I couldn't speak properly, nobody took me seriously, and that was not acceptable at all. My next focus was on getting out of the wheelchair. Mum, as always, was on side, and she wasn't having any of those boundaries placed on me either. She took care of me, got me to therapy on time, and if I thought the therapy was pointless, she made me explain why. She got me to think right from the word go. Luckily, a gym membership was organised for my social well-being, and that was to become central, along with a range of therapies to my movement development. I had strong arms and I'd had heaps of falls off horses. So I taught myself to stand and then walk by dragging myself upright and standing for just 1 minute, then 2 minutes at a time, until eventually I could stay vertical for an hour without holding on to anything. Then I was taking steps, 2, then 10, then from a chair to a table, and so on. Bearing weight through my legs felt like a steel pole was being driven through my body with a sledgehammer. Somehow I had to get used to pain, serious, excruciating pain. And then in some strange way, I had to make friends with it and learn to welcome it, or the long hours of activating each muscle and nerve to get them working again, then trying to get them to work in unison to perform a simple action was so tiring. But there it was, hard work and sheer determination. Every night I'd set the alarm to wake up in the hour to stretch for 15 minutes. I put weights on my fingers, and believe it or not, once a week I dropped a brick on my left foot, wishing to feel pain. And believe it or not, all my toenails went black and fell off. But eventually the feeling came back. When you don't feel pain, you're paralyzed or dead. When you can't feel it, it's what you most want. How much did I want to feel pain? Doctors would stick pins and needles into my legs and arms, and I'd say, yes, I can feel it. And I was sticking it into thin air. They'd say, Leigh, are you sure you can feel pain? I'd say, yes, of course. But I was just hoping it was my greatest wish to be able to feel again. I'd take a taxi to the gym and get the driver to drop me off further and further away, making myself walk longer and longer distances, trying to imprint the simplicity of the action into my brain. I looked like a bag of spuds dragging itself along the footpath. I offered myself as a guinea pig to neurophysios and travelled to Israel to be treated by a controversial practitioner who worked with patients injured by bomb blasts. For the last few years, I've been trialing Botox injected directly into muscle groups and continue to chase every little improvement in my body, whether it's in my riding, in track work, or walking or thinking. I still use the gym twice a day in my efforts to maintain and further extend my abilities. Eventually, I was well enough to gain back my independence, and Mum was able to get back to her own life, leaving me here at my house in Melbourne. She said, I'm only a phone call away if you need me, but she had her life back with the farm and Dad in Buchan 4 hours away. I'd learned to stand and walk. It wasn't pretty yet, but I was mobile, walking tirelessly and endlessly on my physio and at the gym, and taking a long, hard look at my diet and losing plenty of weight helped me get out of that chair. I was on my way back. My life had been my love of horses and winning. I was always a very successful horse rider and competed in show jumping, bush racing, and jumps racing. I was the first and only woman ever to win the Man from Snowy River race at Mansfield and the Cattleman's Cup. It was my dream come true when I started riding and competing in the steeplechase and hurdle races with the trainer Eric Musgrove. I made sure 6 mornings a week I rode 10 to 12 horses in track work for trainers at 2 tracks, Epsom and Caulfield. It took me 2 years to be able to cry after the accident. My grandmother, Nanny Craig, who bought me my first pony Glamour, died peacefully at 86. It released a flood of tears, full of sadness that felt like I was alive again. There'd been so much disappointment and negativity, and I'd hardened myself so much that to give in to the feeling of emotion, it's like another weight being lifted off my shoulders, another step towards becoming a so-called normal person. Step number 3 is passion. Now to get some passion for my life back, my real life, my life with the horses and on the farm. New goals would need breaking down and a whole new series of challenges. I need to have a whole new series of challenges. A, hopping on the horse, maybe not quite as easy as it sounds. B, riding the horse, maybe not quite as easy as I thought it was. C, realizing I had to learn to ride all over again right from the beginning. My head knew how to do all of it, but my body had no idea. I badly needed some riding lessons and some help from Riding for the Disabled. D, going over the jumps. This is for me and a goal not to be shared just yet. So here we are, I'm strengthening weak muscles, working on my balance and beginning to ride in different horses in different conditions. Initially, it's all very controlled and orchestrated, in the yard, at riding school, and with Riding for the Disabled. Then I try riding at home on the farm with a friend, a little bit more freestyle, and even over the odd small jump over fallen branches in the bush. My first real jump was at Miranda Riding School on a beautiful black pony called Vegemite. It feels so easy and so right. And I just think, wow, I can do anything. There isn't an ounce of fear in me, not one, just pure elation. And that's passion. And next step isn't quite so much fun. It's step 4, grind and bloody hard work. One thing I had to get used to was wearing a riding hat. Growing up on the farm and doing stock work, I never fell off. It was a different story now. I pulled myself up onto a racehorse called Superior Way. He shied, and I came off, getting my foot caught in the stirrup. That's not supposed to happen, I thought. Luckily, he just stopped. He's so good. But that's when I thought, I need to learn to ride again and get riding lessons. Riding at home on Peter Pan once a month just wasn't going to work. I needed to get riding lessons from Miranda Riding School. Like speaking, walking, and breathing, I was going to learn how to do things differently, learn them from scratch and do them better. After 10 long years, Eric Musgrove had to let me ride track work for him again. When I came out of the coma, he came into the hospital to visit. He said, "Promise me one thing, Eric. Give me the chance to ride track work for you again." "Yes, no worries, Leigh, anything." A couple of years later, he added, "But only if you can get the doctor's approval." I thought, "You bastard." It took me 10 years to get Dr. Rowicki to write that bloody approval. But when he did, I took it straight back to Eric. Poor fellow, there was nothing he could do but say yes. A promise is a promise. Don't let anyone place any boundaries on you. Get out there and do what you love. Get your life back. Live it and love it for all it is worth, which will mean endless determination, effort, and sheer hard work. People might question why I wanted to ride again after nearly being killed. Here's my explanation. When I was competing as a jockey, I also worked for Dad on the farm. I'd ride track work in Melbourne from 4 a.m. till 8, work from 9 to 5 in an office 5 days a week. I waitressed at the old Dandy Inn from 6 till midnight 3 nights a week as well. I was always tired from doing too much, but I loved it. I was living life. Because I loved what I was doing, riding horses and working on the farm, it wasn't hard work, it was a way of life. And that's what I need to get back to, and the work ethic was with me. When I was in the coma, a lot of people said, "She'll be fine, she's just catching up on sleep." This is a big wide world with no manual to tell you which road it might be best to travel along. Many jockeys, friends and colleagues of mine have suffered injuries, but each of us deal with our own range of issues in a very personal way. Some people close themselves off from the world and crave a quick fix, rely on drugs and struggle to maintain any drive or purpose. Other people become aware of how precious life is, and there's always someone worse off than what they are. At the end of each day, when you put your head on that pillow, you've got to know that you've put in your absolute best.
It's incredible. We are just in all those little things coming up the screen are people clapping and loving and just.
Now that put me off a bit. That really put me off a bit.
Well, that's just everyone so excited to hear your incredible story and all your words. Here they come again, because it was amazing. Your determination, your inspiration, everything that you've battled along the way. And
Gosh, Leigh,
that is just mindset is absolutely incredible. Hence all those things coming up the screen. I can still see them coming up now. That is everyone clapping from their side. So thank you. It is absolutely fantastic to have you as our keynote speaker this morning. You're truly an incredible person, and what a great presentation. You've left us all very energized and inspired. So thank you for being part of the summit this morning.
Fantabulous, inspired, reinvigorated, excited, confidence built, pumped, energized, exhilarating, deadly as.
Shake the room, scale it up. We've been hustling till all hours. Fuel the fire, burning high. Making 7 figures with my girls. Round the world, we know just how you feel. Know you will keep it real. So let's conspire to join. Hand in hand with my sisters we learn. Let's conspire to grow. With determination we thrive. Step into your future and thrive. Connect together, join, lift one another. Show up and step into your future and thrive. Connect together, grow, lift one another. Show up and step into your future and thrive. Whoa, 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 whoa. Step into your future and thrive. Whoa, whoa. Step into your future and thrive. Connect step into your future.